actually very appropriate to start the day off with mindfulness. I think it's something that we're all trying to struggle with, as 2,716 phone touches per day. I probably average like 4,000, I think. I really resonate with this problem. But this point about in the age of distraction, disconnection being maybe a competitive advantage was really interesting to me, as well as self-awareness being a competitive advantage generally for teams, for companies, and in life, and just kind of how you have to actively participate in investing in that. And I think that point about mindfulness being a practice and like all things, recognizing that patience and commitment is required is just certainly stuck with me. Enjoyed speaking with Colin about Varo, and I think we got a good rundown of fintech and the whirlwind of fintech and what's happening there. And both he and Ryan, and I think and to some extent, Jessica, you alluded to this as well. Just that the crazy thing that VCs doubt can oftentimes be the best decision you ever make. And I just think it's fascinating, whether they say, oh, we don't want to invest in something that manages inventory, or, oh, we don't want to invest in something where, Google could build this tomorrow, or whatever the case may be. And it's actually, I feel like it's society's immune system trying to suppress new ideas and new things taking hold. You're always going to be doubted, and potentially, learning to actually gain confidence from doubt at some point in your career may actually be the most important milestone in your life. Recognizing, of course, that nothing extraordinary is ever achieved through ordinary means. So that really stuck out at me. Really enjoyed Jessica's interview as well, and of course our Entrepreneur of the Year, and a few things stuck out there as well. Looking at the world, your world, and asking a new critical question. I think, Jessica, you talked about this notion of there's all this about nourishing body, but how about nourishing the mind, and and then how that becomes a rabbit hole of opportunity and ideas, and then of course also that the setbacks that we face sort of summon the grit that we actually need for the journey. And it's almost interesting, and Ryan talked about this as well, those like real struggling years in the beginning that are in some ways always near-death experiences for a business kind of give you the muscle to then endure whatever is ahead. And I just think it's an interesting pattern that we see in a lot of the talks that we have at this conference over the years. Pushing back the desire to forget rejection, but actually engaging with these people and recognizing that part of the long game is having these relationships, including those that start out rough or that you get rejected. That could be your funder in the subsequent rounds, I think is also a great pearl of wisdom. Monique, not sitting in the negative, focusing on the healthiest version of ourselves, and how that becomes in some ways a compass for the people and the ideas that we should spend the most time with, really stuck out with me, as well as her comment about appreciating the little things that lead you to the big things. I love that. And it's, there's a sort of adage in technology that everything important starts out as a novelty, starts out as a toy. And that's why it's commonly dismissed, because everyone says, oh, that's not serious. And then of course it becomes the next new thing. And maybe that's her wisdom there. It relates to this idea of those little things that we appreciate and where they lead us in work and in life, of course. And then Doug, great meeting Doug. I hear about Pfizer all the time because I work with his lead director, Shantanu, and sit on his staff. So I learn all the time from Pfizer from afar. But a couple of things stuck out. This notion of being the passionate dreamer. A lot of us are here because we have these strong convictions and we have these dreams, but pairing ourselves, or at least valuing the voice of someone who's telling us what can go wrong, is so important. I actually think that a lot of the problems we have today with Facebook and with all these technologies that we are really, in some ways, struggling with in society may be the result of well-intentioned people who are only creative about what could go right, and we're not creative about what could go wrong. And so it's an interesting part of our process as product builders and designers. Like, do we force ourselves and our teams to actually be a little creative and brainstorm about what could go wrong with something as well? I think that would be good, not only for the well-being of our businesses, but also for society. And then finally, and I think this is a good point to end on, but just unreasonable constraints and passion are really the forcing functions to achieve the impossible. And just think about global pandemic, some of the most brilliant scientists in the world, used to 3 to 5 year timelines and budget reviews and processes, and this idea of taking these people with passion and expertise and giving them unreasonable constraints is probably one of the greatest, I don't know, research experiments of how business can perform and what ideas can actually be made to happen and how to actually do it. So those are a few of my takeaways. I want to thank Zach, Deb, the whole team who puts this conference on. Let's give them a round of applause. And what is this? Is this the 8th year of the conference? 7, 9?
10.
10, my gosh, it flies.
Yeah, and I think you've done 9 of them.
9 of them. So maybe I'll see you next year. I'll see. I get grades after this, always. But anyways, Zach, and thank you all for making it, for being here with the masks and the environment. I mean, really, this is one of the first in-person experiences I've had in a long time. Hopefully you all enjoyed it as well. So Zach, any final words?
Absolutely not. Just thank you so much all for coming. This has been fantastic. Next year, hopefully without masks. We will see you, I'm sure, before then. Safe travels. Thanks.